it is our time. I am so excited to be joining you all tonight for the Reimagine Your Career reboot. Now, this is going to be a time where you can set aside and really begin to focus on what it is that you want to accomplish in this season. What do you want? And it is your time to prioritize that. And tonight, I am going to talk you through it. I am going to help you understand how to get from where you are to where you want to be. Now, if we haven't met before, my name is Denise Taylor, and I am so elated to be your host for tonight. I am a career success coach, and there's two things that you should know about me right away. The first thing you should know is my superpower is accelerating success. And the second thing you should know is my sweet spot is helping you to reimagine it. Now, when I talk about success, especially career success, that is something that is extremely personal. But there are three key indicators when it is going well for you. When you are in the vein, when you are in your lane, when things are going well and all things are pointing to your success in a way that resonates with you, you will be happy, you will be healthy, and you will be helpful. And my goal as a career success coach is to help you prioritize your success, prioritize yourself in your happiness in such a way that you get what you want and deserve. And tonight is focused on helping you to reimagine your career. Now, I have been doing coaching for a number of years now. And one of the things that I know is true about us as women is oftentimes we allow other things to be more important than ourselves. You guys still can't hear, or you can hear now? I see the comments where you guys saying you're not able to hear anything. Can you hear me now? Please tell me you can hear me. Can you hear me now? Somebody drop it in the chat and let me know that you can hear. Okay. Are you able to hear me? It hasn't come through yet. Are you able? Yep, perfect. Thank you, Destiny. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, because I couldn't brave another storm. I got to keep moving. I couldn't brave another storm. So I want you to get to the point where you're able to prioritize yourself and hit that sweet spot for yourself where you can indeed begin to feel happy, healthy, and helpful. Now, in the context of reimagining your career, there are three things I'm going to unpack for us tonight, and I'm going to do all three of them in one setting. We're not going to have a multi-night event. You're going to get everything tonight. So if you stick with me, I am going to show you how to go from getting clear to getting into action. Now, one of the things I want to just say, as you guys just saw, it takes a little bit for your comments to come through to me. And so if you have questions at any point as I am going through this information tonight, go ahead and drop it in the chat. I am going to answer all of the questions that come through, but it takes a little bit of a delay. So as your questions are coming up, just go ahead and put them in the chat. And then that way I can make sure I answer all of the questions that you guys may have. Now, where I want to start off is with this perspective that in order to reimagine your career, you've got to get settled on what's important to you now. That's a key thing. We cannot be all over the board if we're going to strategically pivot into the things that we want to do in this season. So the very first thing is we've got to get clear on what's important to us now. But there's a lot underneath that I really want to unpack. There are typically three signs that points to the fact that you really need to reimagine your career. And typically the three start happening all at once. One of them may be more aggressive than the other, but usually these three signs are indicators that it's time to reimagine your career. The first thing is it's no longer satisfying to you. Now, what I mean by that is the thrill is gone. You guys have heard that term before. The thrill is gone. It goes from being a career to feeling like a job. You know, a career tends to energize us. We show up with this expectation of what we can do and what we can become. But when you have a job, it becomes more task focused and you find yourself just doing it because the satisfaction has withered away. Another thing that tells you that satisfaction is kind of gone is you start saying that you're bored at it, even though you're still good at doing it. You just have no sense of fulfillment, accomplishment, any attachment to it. You're now just going through the motions, if you will. And then finally, the last thing that is an indicator that your satisfaction may be fading is you feel stuck instead of satisfied. When you're describing your role, when you're describing what you do, it comes from a perspective or a mindset of feeling stuck. Now, I don't know if you can relate to that, but if you have those indicators and you have them consistently, that likely is a strong factor that points to something is out of alignment. I don't know if you know about tires on your car, right? Your ride gets out of sequence and disjointed in your drive when your tires are out of alignment. And that is what starts to happen to us when it's time for us to really reimagine our career. The next thing that is a indicator or factor when it comes to being a sign that it may be time to reimagine your career is your feel good tank is no longer getting filled by the work that you do. You're just not fulfilled by it anymore. Now, this is a little different than satisfaction because satisfaction is about the excitement of it all and how jazzed you get behind it. But fulfillment is about how it makes you feel inside. You start thinking things like this: they can't pay me enough to keep doing this. If those types of thoughts are running through your mind, then chances are you're hitting this point where you may need to begin reevaluating or reimagining what it is that you do. The intrinsic motivation that used to make you feel so jazzed, even on a bad day, is gone. When you're in the lane and in the vein of feeling good about what you do, it doesn't take much to really throw you off your rocker. But if you are showing up because you're not as fulfilled as you used to be, it can take very little and it will just knock you over. When you're fulfilled on the inside, it doesn't impact you the same way as when you're not. What I mean by that is your feel good tank. It usually fuels you and keeps you going despite what kind of day you're having. You can be optimistic in it because of how you feel about the work. It's an indicator that things are out of alignment when you start to sense that something doesn't matter to you anymore about the job. Now, the third thing that is an indicator is your want to is gone. I know that's not really good English, but you kind of want to go to work. You want to do the things that you're doing. And when that want to is gone, you're starting to show up late. You're starting to log in late. You kind of don't really care if they even notice those things about you. You're consistently having to make yourself do it. And the consequences of not doing it really doesn't bother you or scare you anymore. And so, as you can start seeing those indicators happen in your life consistently, because we all have days where we just don't want to be bothered, we just might be in a little mood. But when you're consistently experiencing that, where your satisfaction isn't there anymore and your fulfillment isn't there anymore and your want to isn't there anymore, then you likely need to take some steps to begin to reimagine your career. The way I like to describe it is this: there is this barometer, and you start to fade away the more those things get out of alignment. When you first moved into this position, first moved into this role, first took on these responsibilities, there was a delight that you had. Everything was in alignment. It was all cylinders go for you. You were in delight. And as things start to erode, be it your satisfaction, your fulfillment, or your desire, you will start to find yourself becoming out of balance, and that will become discontentment. You'll be discontented with things that are going on. Things will start to rub you the wrong way. It won't settle with you the way that it used to. And if it continues to fade, it will go from delight to discontentment to you being disconnected. You will find yourself really checking out. That's kind of the spiral. You started off real strong. You were delight. Then you became discontented and things got out of balance. Nothing was done to check it back in. So it continues to spiral and fade away and you become disconnected. But unfortunately, being disconnected is not the last point. Because if you don't do something to try to course correct what's happening when disconnection and checkout occurs, you'll become disgruntled. And disgruntled is really when you secretly have quit in your own mind and in your own heart, but you showing up anyway. So you're just disgruntled about being there because in your own mind, you quit already, right? So you're disgruntled, you're uneasy about showing up to be there. So there's this fade that happens, right? You go from delight to discontent, to disconnected, to disgruntled. And I wish I could say disgruntled was the last step in the fade, but it's not. The last step is being destroyed. And that's when you stayed too long. You stayed long past the expiration date and things have completely spoiled for you. So you can see that if we don't react to those indicators of satisfaction and fulfillment in your desire or your want to, you'll start to fade on this perspective or this spectrum where your delight will erode into discontent, will erode into you being disconnected, will erode into you being disgruntled. And then you ultimately may find yourself in this detrimental state of being destroyed where it just has spoiled. Now, for some of you, that may not be the case. For some of you, you may be on a high note and you just want to do something new. But even your desire to want to do something new says something is out of balance with where you are. And the key thing is when you sense that, you can't ignore that. You have to begin inspecting it so that you can determine what actions need to be taken so that you can get back into alignment. And I have some assessment tools for that, be it life or career. We have those things that are going to help you rank what's important and what's satisfying and what brings you joy and determine the sense of urgency. All of those things can be isolated out so that you get clarity. But here's what I want to impress upon you. If you do nothing, it will continue to fade and erode, and you're going to find yourself in a situation where you are no longer happy, healthy, or helpful. And the person who loses when that erosion happens and actions are not taken to bring you back into alignment is you. So the biggest question I have for you is what if you could stop the decay? What if you could stop the fade? What if you could stop the disconnection, the downward spiral? What if you could regain control so that you don't find yourself fading away fast? What if you could feel better simply by reimagining your career and beginning to take some steps to shift what you do, pivot what you do in such a way that brings things back into proper alignment with who you are now? And I say that because we evolve. And if the things we're doing don't evolve with us, it will cause a misalignment, it will cause a breach, and we will start to erode and fade away. So I'm wondering if you could commit to letting go of the frustration and really settle in to do something about what it is that you sense. That's really the real question, right? Because with the step-by-step process, you can get to the point. But unless you make a decision that this is something that you need to do something about, it is going to continue to fade on you. The one myth I want to dispel is this. Many times people think that when you reimagine your career, that you have to burn down everything and begin again. And I'm not a proponent of that. You see, your experience is valuable, your accomplishments are valuable, your worth is valuable. So, burning down anything is not the right approach, it's not the right strategy. We want to leverage and build upon what you have as we reimagine. Now, you just need to strategically hit the reset button on your career, but oftentimes we don't know exactly how to make that happen. But here's the one thing I want you to know: the end result is likely going to be the things that you think it's going to be. It absolutely is going to end up with you potentially getting a new role that you love. It's absolutely going to end up with you potentially exiting a role that no longer fits you. It can potentially end up with you joining a new team or division within the company where you are, with you getting promoted, or even launching a new business that you've already or always wanted to launch. It can end in those things. Absolutely, that will be the outcome. But what I want you to know, like between me and you, I want you to know that there's more in it for you. It goes deeper than that. And understanding what really is at stake is going to help you rise up in the face of what you think is hard. And here's the thing. I've been coaching for a really long time. So I can tell you one thing that I believe is true about you. I found it true for myself. I found it true for a lot of women that I work with, is that oftentimes we typically hang on to things to our own detriment. We stay in situations to our own detriment. This is something that I see that's common across women. We sacrifice ourselves for other people. We tend to stay with it because it's not broken and we don't want to make waves. We don't want to seem ungrateful. We just want things to stay calm and peaceful. We don't want to be disruptive. And not only that, we're so used to giving more value than we expect in return. And as a result of that, we just kind of stay status quo, even though we're secretly eroding, like I talked about before. So we stay late and we work extra hours and we cover for other people and we pick up the slack and we juggle while others watch us do it, right? And only when we get frustrated will we snap and say something. But what I am saying to you is you've got the power to control this and make it get back into alignment in a way that benefits and prioritizes you. This is why I know, if you're honest, agree with me that there definitely is more at stake when it comes to reimagining your career. It's about way more than a new job title. Heck, it's about more than money, if we're honest. It's about more than prestige. It's about you truly feeling satisfied within and fulfilled within by doing something that aligns with who you are and what you want. You see, I believe, and I know it's true because I've taken this journey myself. I've reimagined my career multiple times. I've taken jobs within the company and moved from one area to the other. I've relocated my entire family to an entirely new state. I took on positions because I wanted to accelerate my success and get to titles and certain income levels. I have reimagined my career to the point where now I'm a full-time entrepreneur. So I understand all that reimagining it can be hard to do. But I also understand, because I've done it, I understand that the greater autonomy that you feel and the control that you have over your career, it feels great. When you can make those decisions about what you want to do, that feels incredible. The confidence that you exude, the self assurance that you get in your abilities, that feels phenomenal. And that doesn't have anything to do with a title, that doesn't have anything to do with pay necessarily, but it has everything to do with finding out what you want and prioritizing that in a way that aligns what you do with who you are. So when we talk about reimagining your career, I understand that there's more to it. Yes, you may get a new role. Yes, you may leave a role. Yes, you may launch a business. All of those things could be potentials for you. But what's really at stake is your ability to do something that prioritizes success in a way that you want and deserve. And I know what that's like because I secretly wanted it. And it wasn't until I got courageous enough to admit it to myself and to take steps in the direction that I wanted that I began to live out what I wanted at each of those steps. And so when you really look at pivoting your career and you really look at changing your life, you have to ask yourself, what do you want and what's going to make you happy? So when I talk about getting settled on what's important to you now, it's going to take transparency, it's going to take honesty, it's going to take some assessment, and it's going to take a decision for you to prioritize yourself and be honest about what it is that you want. The second thing I wanted to talk about tonight is understanding exactly what's necessary to strategically plan your pivot. And this is important. The biggest thing I find making us stay in a place that we sense we don't want to be anymore, for all of the reasons that I talked about before, is that we are afraid to make that shift. We have responsibility for our household. We've got responsibility for the things we've accomplished. Things and people are counting on us. And as women, we tend to count the costs. Like we make sure everybody got a plate. We make sure everybody got a spoon. We count all of the costs. And that means making this choice to potentially pivot is going to cause some disruption that will put some risk into play. And when we look at it, we tend to lean into what do I need to do to keep it stable? And many times that means not choosing ourselves. We consider everything relying on us. We consider everything we've accomplished. We consider everyone who will be impacted. We go through all of the scenarios. And because it feels hard, we opt out. This analysis can almost paralyze us to stay instead of trying. But here's the deal. When it comes to reimagining your career, there is a way to mitigate risk. Now, I have been heard before of saying how I vehemently disagree with Steve Harvey's advice to jump. Jumping puts everything at risk. It takes a high degree of faith, and many of us, quite honestly, don't want to operate or jeopardize things in our life to the point where we jump. I believe that you can be more strategic. I believe that you can mitigate risk, you can infuse confidence, and you can chart a course that will strategically allow you to accomplish what it is that you're trying to do. That is with a pivot plan. And that is what I advocate for. I am a huge GPS user. When the GPS has been programmed with where we're going, I trust its guidance. And even though I may have inklings that it's taken the long way or it may be going around, I trust the guidance of the GPS. There's a greater probability that I will arrive, my confidence goes up, because I know that there is a plan to get me from where I am to where I want to be. And so that is one of the reasons why I am a huge advocate of planning. Now, planning doesn't take away all risk 100%. But when you go through the process of thinking through the different scenarios and things that will have to be done, it greatly minimizes the risk that you will take on. So there's a 5-step process that I believe is necessary to develop a comprehensive plan to reimagine your career and set the stage for yourself. The first thing we've talked about a little bit, but there is actually a lot that comes out of self-reflection and assessment. You have to understand your strengths. You have to understand your values. You have to understand your passions and what truly motivates you. And we factor all of that in to understand what's the best move that when we get to success, it's going to resonate and feel right for you. A lot of that is done through self-reflection exercises to allow you to get clarity on the goals and aspirations that you really want. This is key. If we are going to make a cake, we have to have some idea of what the end result needs to look like, because the end result is going to help us know that we've achieved success when we arrive. If we aimlessly just start throwing ingredients into the bowl without proper measurement and without adding them at the right time, we will end up with a mess. These practices of helping you get clear lets us know what we are shooting for and what we are then creating milestones along the way to achieve. Very methodical, very strategic. Step number 2 is really looking at market trends and opportunities. Now, if you were a part of this event last week, you heard me share the testimony that one of the people who did the power hours was talking about some of the things that she wanted to do and accomplish from an entrepreneurial perspective. Well, one of the things that I energized into the conversation was, do you want to make money? Because if you don't factor in that market trend, that opportunity against what you're saying you want to do, then you may end up disappointed and not get the successful result that you're hoping for. Strategically understanding means that it can be set up in a way that will guarantee what results is what you want. And so we started then talking about how she could achieve some of that, but really go after the money in the right way. That strategy conversation takes into consideration market trends and opportunities, emerging opportunities, identifying what is the high growth potential, what is the way to position this, what is the way to pursue this based on what's going on. And as I said at the top of the call, that is my sweet spot. I am gifted in that way, that if you tell me what you're trying to accomplish, I bring all of my experience and insight to the table to tell you how to accelerate it. Step number 3 is skill enhancement. And here's my caution to the wind. A lot of times as women, one of the things that we do is we lean into education. You may not need more education. Education and skill enhancement are 2 different things. While education may be important, it's not necessarily going to sign up for another degree or more certifications that may be necessary, as much as developing the skills that are going to be important for what it is that you want to do. Equipping yourself with the right skills, make sure that you're positioned for the career move that you want to make. It could be up leveling your skills in your current field. It could be acquiring new skills. And again, don't mistake skills for education. We are wanting to be very strategic and targeted to make sure that you're getting what you need to bridge to where you want to go. Making sure that the capabilities and the requirements are understood for our ultimate goal. A lot of times we busy ourselves with more pursuit of education and degrees because we don't know what to do. We start just doing something so that we can feel like we're making progress. And this is where action does not necessarily mean progress. It has to be strategic and targeted to the end goal. Number 4, networking and personal branding. This is so key and important. Leveraging your network so that you can understand how to begin to move forward on the value that you bring to the marketplace, your personal brand. This is ensuring that anything you're needing to showcase, whether it's something to potential employers or something to potential coworkers or leaders, or even something to the marketplace as a new business, is understood. How do you pull out the value of your network? How do you pull out the value of your personal brand? Is something that is important to your pivot plan. And then finally, number 5 is when you get into the actionable goal setting in the execution. This is when you start charting the course. And you saw that there were 4 things that we did before we even got to the point of a roadmap, of a pivot plan that is going to help us understand how to take our career and reimagine it. The one key thing is this. We can define all of this all day. It's an excellent strategy. It's the types of things that I used to bring to the marketplace when I led $1,000,000 projects. We mitigate risk by planning. But strategy is nothing without execution. We can develop a plan, but you have got to translate that plan into action. And usually that's where we need support. But the real question is, if you understood the steps that you needed to take, would you take them if you knew you could get to the career reimagination that you desire? Because our ultimate thing is to disrupt this misalignment that we feel and to begin to move into something and pivot into something very strategically so that we can hit our goal. All of those things are a part of the pivot plan that is going to make that happen. We don't jump. We operate with strategy. Now, having said all that, the last thing that is really important to this journey is being able to overcome fear and safeguard your joy as you shift. I talked about execution being so key and important, and this is usually where we stop. It is important for you to understand that minimizing risk is going to take some very deliberate efforts that you have to be intentional about doing as it applies to you. Financial planning is key. You don't want to risk everything. So you have to understand, how much risk are you willing to take? How much can your family really be without for a period of time? And how much do you need to save so that you can make the pivot? Those are questions that we identify as a part of the planning process. Is there a need for part-time or freelance work? That's another mitigation strategy. Exploring opportunities of what can you add in so that you can position yourself to go forward. What can you add in to support in the meantime? What do you need to do? Negotiating your flexibility. It could be time negotiation. It could even be role negotiation. One of the things that we've talked about before is, do you need to go in and negotiate your availability in a way that opens you up for new opportunity? Potentially. Those strategies for negotiation and the way to approach them are extremely key when you're trying to pivot. Again, we don't burn everything down. We operate with strategy and intention. And the last thing is building a support network. It's so important not to do these types of things alone, to do them with someone that can help guide you through the process. And that's one of the things that I could do. As a career success coach, my sweet spot is helping you reimagine your career. As you do this, more than those tactical things to reduce the risk is something else. You've got to be able to overcome fear and safeguard your joy by understanding who you are. The one thing I know about fear is a dream killer. It can make you forget everything about the great things you've accomplished, the obstacles you've overcome, the doubts you've disproved, and just how much you've been able to achieve. Fear will disrupt all of that and make you stay stagnant and stuck where you are. But one of the things when you're in the midst of this, when you're in the thick of it and you're trying to make that pivot and it feels hard to you, you have to remember that you are resilient. You have proven yourself time and time again. You possess resilience because you have faced challenges. You have to remember that you are adaptable. You have the capacity to adapt to change and thrive in new ways. You are not stuck. But when fear rises up, it makes us feel like we can't do it. It makes us feel like we're not prepared to do it, even though your own experience in life has proven that you are. You are resilient. You are adaptable. You are a problem solver. You got to your today because you've proven those things about yourself. Even more than that, you're an influencer when you want to be. You have a positive impact on environments that you are in. You've been noted for the differences that you have made. But fear makes you think that all of that's not true about you. And fear is pressure. It is absolutely pressure. And this is one of the reasons why you need someone helping you through the process of change. Safeguarding your joy means that you have to remember who you are and ultimately get to the point where the joy that's set before you is what's wooing you to be able to make progress to it. And the best example I have for that is Christ, right? The joy that was set before him is what allowed him to persevere through the things that he had to face. That strategy is one that we have to put on for ourselves so that we can move forward towards the things that we want to achieve. But I do know this, that this could just be another motivational speech to you if you don't make a decision about yourself. And I was trying to think of the best way to close something like this out. And I was reminded of a survey of a result that was done from a survey that was done of people who were literally on their deathbed. And they went through and they asked all of these people who were on the brink of death. And you can go and Google this. On the brink of death, what were their top regrets? And the number one regret of a person who was lying on their deathbed across all of these people that they asked was they had wished they lived in a way that honored their true self. And at the heart of it, that's what this is. This is an opportunity for you to live in a way that honors your true self. And here's how I know that, because that misalignment, that breach of alignment is an indication to you that a change is necessary. It's an indication to you that you need to do something to bring it back into alignment. And that something can be accelerate forward, that something can be elevate upward, that something can be a complete pivot to something new. That is what has to be determined. But that misalignment is something that you cannot ignore. If you ignore it, it's going to cause you to fade. So, if you could be more empowered and more resilient to truly reimagine your career, the question I have for you is, how would your life change? I know for me, it was incredible to watch the evolution and to get to the point where I am today, being able to serve women in such a powerful way to get to their next level of success. I love the transitions, the experience, the insight that I can bring because of my willingness to have pivoted through my career. Refusing to stay stuck has allowed me to experience some incredible accomplishments in innovation. And so the real question is, if you could be more empowered, if you could be more resilient, if you could be more engaged and supported to reimagine your career, how would your life change? So let's just talk about it. Let's go out 3 weeks from now. 3 weeks from now, you're starting to do the assessment. You're starting to get clear about what it is that you really want. It's starting to make sense to you why things are out of kilter. You understand what's important to you. You understand what brings you joy. You understand what brings you satisfaction. You even understand what's urgent for you to do something about. And then you go out 3 months and you have now started to take action to bring alignment. You've started to update things about your resume or even your LinkedIn profile or even your job search or even your own business because you got clear on what it was that you wanted to do. And then you go out 12 months and you're actually doing that thing, and everything that you were struggling with today is behind you. And there's a decision that's on the table for you today that person 12 months from now is hoping you will make, because they're saying to you, if you don't, the fade is going to continue to happen. And the discontent you feel is going to erode and become disconnection. And disconnection is disruptive. It impacts you, your family, and everything around you. And God forbid it becomes you being disgruntled. And so the real question is, what can you do today that ensures it doesn't get any worse, that the misalignment that you're feeling, the disconnect that you're feeling doesn't get any worse than what you are experiencing today. So let me just play it back. Let me just play back what we've talked about today. We've talked about getting settled on what's important to you now. We've talked about the fact that the discontent comes from no longer being satisfied, no longer being fulfilled, and the want to, your desire just being gone. We've talked about the fact that there are some outcomes that are pretty predictable when you start reimagining your career, that you may end up in a new role you love. You may exit a role that no longer fits. You may move to a new team. You may get promoted. You may launch a business. All of those things are on the table for you. We talked about the fact that there's more in store for you, even though those outcomes would potentially be great, but getting more control over the trajectory of your career and having more autonomy to drive that out in a way that resonates with you, increasing your confidence and your self-assurance in your abilities, and choosing yourself by prioritizing what you want and deserve. That's what's really at stake. We talked about a pivot plan, a 5-step plan that starts with self-reflection and assessment. It goes to market trends and opportunities. It goes to skill enhancements, not education, but skill enhancements and development. And it goes to networking and building your personal brand, and then mapping out a plan to get there, just like a GPS. And then finally, we talked about mitigating the risk, some strategies around financial planning and freelance work and negotiating flexibility, be it with time or role, and really developing some intentional strategies of how to shore up all these elements that are at play about you. And then we talked about your resilience. We talked about you being adaptable. We talked about you being a problem solver and you ultimately being an influencer for your own life. The fact is, if you don't take some steps to do something about it today, it will shift on you. And so I want to invite you. I want to invite you to book a call with me. I would love to talk with you more. Now, here's the reason why I don't drop links to programs, because I want to understand what it is that you're looking to achieve and do, what you're experiencing, so I can triage that and I can give you more insight into what I think will be your best next step. Now, if you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the chat. But I'm going to show you what this looks like to book a call. It's pretty straightforward. If you go to your browser and you key in www.callwithdenise.live, I'm going to do that now. When I key it in, it's going to bring up my calendar. And when it brings up my calendar, it's going to allow you to book a time. We're at the end of April, so it's going to tell you to go to the next month. And you can see here, there's some times even yet this week for me to have a conversation with you. Now, I'm not a pushy salesperson because I want to provide solutions that I know will work for you. So if you go to my calendar and book a time, we're going to just have a conversation about what it is that you desire, what you're facing, and what you want. And in that conversation, I'm going to make a recommendation as to what I believe your best next step is. And if I believe I can help you, then I will share more about what that looks like. Either way, I'm going to give you some ideas on steps I believe that you can take to begin to pivot your career. But what I want you to think about, I want you to think about the fact that 12 months from now, it can be a completely different story for you. You can be experiencing that vision that you have for yourself that's running into all of these different obstacles that you're not sure how to navigate. That's what coaching and mentorship is all about. It helps you get out of your own way and strategically plan your next steps. And so again, I want to invite you to go to my calendar, grab a time for us. I'm going to look at the chat here and see. Destiny said, why are you calling me out like this? I'm